Okay, today I'm going to be walking you through the grading practices in order to finish out this school year. There are some changes and some nuances to this, so please listen to the entire video and follow the Unified Classroom COVID step guide that was provided as well. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning. If you'll want to make sure that you get into Unified Classroom. You should have a bookmark folder that looks like this, and you can click right there and go to Unified Classroom. Once you are inside of Unified Classroom, there's a couple things that you want to do. I'm just going to go into one grading, into Divine's class, and kind of walk you through her classroom, and you would apply these same things to the different content areas as well. So the first thing you want to do is you'll want to make sure anything that you're doing, you want to see T3 everywhere. So we see it's a T2 here. I'm just going to bump this to T3, and that should help as I move forward. If you do forget that step, just always keep looking T3, 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 T3. Make sure that's T3. So at the top, you'll want to choose your content area that you would like to score in. You can see I have a lot. You won't have this many. I'm going to go into Divine's classroom. So I'm going to be looking at reading, 3rd grade. Again, I want to make sure I am in T3. I see T3. I'm going to go over here to grading. I'm going to click on grading. Then I'm going to go to grades. And it brings up Power Teacher Pro. Now, previous to this, to what we're doing right now, I've always told you, do not grade in here. So next year, you will be told not to grade in here. However, we need to do it in this instance just to finish out using the coding system that we have to use due to COVID virus. Okay, so again, we want to make sure everything's T3. So I see T3 here, I see T3 here. We are good. The first thing I want to really show you is this view that you're looking at right here. This view that we're looking at is called the standards view. Okay, that's extremely important to remember that because we will be looking at two different views. This is the standards view, and the other view that we're going to look at, I'm going to show you in a second, and it's called the progress view, the standards progress view. So the other one is called the standards progress view. This is just called the standards view. All right. So what we want to do is let's hypothetically say that after March 13th, I had students engage on a standard. This is where I want to go in and complete it for that specific standard. So let me walk you through an example. So in this example, I'm going to walk you through this screen because you really want to be oriented to what this standards view looks like and what each of these are saying. So we know that this one right here with the text box, that is where we're going to place our student comment. So I can click in there and then I can do my comments, obviously that way. This next one, the next column here, this is the main domain. This is the main domain area, or main domain for the continuum. So you won't put anything on this one. You could, let's say for example, that on this one I had engaged learning on know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills and decoding words. So a point Y I could score at. So I could place a score here, which I'm going to in a second. But again, I want to orient you to all of these before we kind of jump into this, okay? The next one is when we have the points. So your point A and ones are subtargets. It'll probably be easier for me to pop the screen over real quick to show you. So in this one, you can see this is the example that we were just looking at. It's the same view. I'm just going to blow it up a little bit so we can look a little closer. So you can see that the point 3, that's the domain, like I said, and the Y's, any of the Y's, those are year-long targets. We could score those. The point A, anything with an alphabet letter in it, a point A, point B, point C, whatever, those are sub-targets, and you don't have to score those unless you want to put something in there on that. Unless you were engaged in that one, then you certainly can do that. And then that applies to this the point B, point C, point D. Then I see a Y, so that is a critical standard. I could definitely score that one. Then I see a point A, a point B, so that means those are sub targets. And then the point threes, very similar to this RF point three. That's a domain that starts right there, and that's a domain right there. I know it's a little confusing, but you have to have this out in front of you to really help you out with that. But a point one, I know that's a critical, and I could score that one as well. But then a point 1.1, or a number and a number after it, that is a learning progression. So this one I do not have to score. The only ones that are going to actually be on the report card are going to be the point ones and the Y's. Those are the only, this is a critical target right here. This is a critical target right here. And this is a critical target. That's the only thing that's going to be on the report card. So those are the most important. So let's, oops, I zoomed the wrong way. Sorry about that. Let's pretend that I did engage in learning on this phonics piece right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here, and let's say that I want to give everybody an engaged because all of my students were engaged on this specific standard. I can do that very easily. All I'm going to do is, so let's say that I want to put a score here for this phonics. I click here next to Christian's name. I go over to codes. I want to give an engagement, so I click engage. Now you're going to see that it says exempt here. You want to click exempt first before you fill everything. I'll show you why on the second one here. So I click exempt right here. Now I'm going to click fill, and it's going to fill all of these. And you'll see that all my E's are black. That means that I've exempted all of them. So now everybody has been given an engaged for this. Now let's say that there were a couple kids, like maybe Shayla was not engaged. I can click right on hers, go over to codes, and I can adjust it to not engaged or whatever. But you'll see that you see how it's purple? You always have to make sure that they're black. So you can see that I clicked an exempt there to change that to exempt. Now remember, point A's, those are, the point A's are sub-targets. So this is sub-target, 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 so that's not in the grade book. The point Y, that's in a grade book, so if I taught it, I could score it. If I instructed on it. If I didn't instruct on it, I can skip it. So in this case, I'm just going to skip that one because I didn't cover it. I see a point A, a point B. So again, sub-target would be that. I ran out of them, so I click that arrow to move to the next one. I see a Y here, so I can hover over it to find out what it is, determine, clarify the meaning. So let's say that this was one that I taught, and now I'm going to show you why it's important to hit that exempt first. So I'm going to go right here to this student's box, and I'm going to give an engaged. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill down. I'll fill all of them, that's fine. I'm going to click OK. So you can see how they're all purple now. That means I'm going to have to go and make all of them, I'm going to have to go and exempt each one of them. So you want to exempt it first. That way you're not having to go and do a bunch of extra work. So all you're going to be doing is, what makes the most sense to me is to write down all of the critical standards that you covered in the third trimester. And then you're going to go in and score them in this manner, adding them all the way down like this. And that's the first step of scoring. Is going through and doing it that first step through, okay? All right, so now that you've went through and you've quickly auto-filled all that you could, you filled in all of the new standards that you covered since March 13th, you've given engaged, not engaged, or left blank anything that you didn't cover as well. Now you're ready for the next step. And in the next step, you want to be looking at your approaching masteries and not yets from T2 or from T2 and T1. So what we want to do is we want to click on an individual student's name. We also want to go in and confirm what everything looks like. So we're going to do all that in one step. So from this standard view, you click on the student's name. Once you click on the student's name, you now need to go to that second view that I was referring to earlier. The second view is called the standards progress view. The way that you get that is after you clicked on that student's name, you're going to click here on this blue arrow. You're going to go to standards progress right there. So I'll show you that real quick again. I'm going to start all the way back from the beginning just so you can see it real fast. All right. So we go into grades. This is called the standards view. This is all of the standards, learning progressions, yada, yada, yada. So I've already done all the autofill. Now I'm going to check from my approaching masteries and not yet's from T1, T2, and I'm going to verify everything else as well. I can do my comments in here, or I can do them in this as well. So all I'm going to do is go to the blue, or I'm going to go to the student's name, and then I'm going to go to the blue down arrow, and I'm going to go to standards progress. Once you're in standards progress, this is pretty much what the report card will look like currently. So if I walk down this list, I can see I have an approaching mastery in T2. Now, if we're looking at our guidance, our guidance is going to tell us what to do with this one. And what our guidance tells us is this: if you provided more instruction on that standard and the student engaged with that instruction, then you're going to mark E for T3 and Y1. So if I had provided instruction on this, I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to mark an E. Remember, I have to hit that exempt still, otherwise it's going to be purple, and I can't have anything purple. I click exempt, and then I have to go over here, and I would have to adjust this to an E as well, because as soon as you have an E, the Y1 has got to match that E as well. So then I would have to go to E, and I'd have to hit exempt. So you can see in this scenario, they had an approaching mastery. I provided some instruction on it, so I'm going to give them an E for T3 and an E for Y1. All right? So that's an example for that one. And you can see the rest of these, the mastery right here, that's pushing over to Y1. I don't have to do anything. Obviously, if I did provide any instruction in T3, which I didn't need to, I would switch it to an E, and then I have to switch this to an E to match it. Okay? But if they have mastery, I would leave it alone. I would not do anything for them in that category. So if I had autofilled this and it had an E here, I probably would delete the E and leave the M and the M because they did hit that mastery point. So you really wouldn't want to. Really, in my mind, an E is similar to like an approaching mastery. All right. So for this student example, right down here we have another approaching mastery. I would have to do the same scenario. If they had it, let's pretend they had a not yet right here. If a student had a not yet, like right here, well, I'll do right next to this one here. Say they had a not yet right here. Say it was a not yet. So for not yets, if you provided more instruction on that standard and the student engaged with the instruction, then you would mark an E in T3. So pretend there's a not yet here. I'd do an E and then an E, so the same thing applies. Anybody who has a not yet, you really want to be thinking about how you want to provide some sort of engagement for that as well. Okay, the black triangle what it means is that you have manually adjusted something in Power Teacher Pro. So normally that's a bad thing, but in this example, we want to be overriding the system in this scenario. You can also add comments right here, the same way that you would do on the other through the standards view on the other page that we just visited as well. So you have that option as well. Again, all of the different criteria for what you do is on the guidance document that was shared with you as well. The big thing is if you have approaching mastery or not yet in T1, T2, you want to be doing some sort of instruction for them, and you want to be adjusting them. So, for example, if you didn't provide instruction on a not yet on the standard, you're still going to want to mark engaged. So if it was not yet right here, you still want to mark engaged for T3 and then engaged for Y1, because if you leave it at not yet, then that means they're going to get a not yet over here at year 1. And they did actually engage with that standard at some point. So the way that you'll do that, any not yets, if it's a not yet here or not yet here, you're going to put an engaged here and an engaged here. That shows that they did engage in the standard in T1 or T2. Okay, so that should walk you through all those different scenarios. Again, this is what the reading report card would look like. This standard, or this right here, this would be the continuum domain, so there wouldn't be any scoring going on there. We know that a Y is a year-long target. This one is going to be on the standard, or it's going to be on the report card. The point A's, A, B, C's, and D's, those are sub-targets. Those are not going to be on the report card. And then this one would be on the report card. Again, sub-targets right here. And then we have another domain here, and then a critical target right here. So again, all of this is in the guide that's provided for you. So we've walked through quite a few things. I want to show you a couple real quick tricks. For example, let's say that I put a code in here. I put an E, and I didn't want the E in there. So it looks like that, and I'm like, I need to get rid of that. Hitting delete will delete it out like that, but you're still going to see that black bar, the black box on there. So I hit delete on that one, but the way that you get rid of the black box is by hitting the back arrow, and then that black box will go away. So really what you want to do is if you accidentally place a code in somewhere where you don't want, like I just did right there, what you want to do is you want to click back in the box, hit that return arrow, and that gets rid of it the appropriate way. Alright, so after you've autofilled and now you went in and did the granular piece like this to check all of your approaching masteries and not yets to make sure everything was pushing over to T3 and Y1 the appropriate way. You have that done. For this student, you can simply come up here, click on the kid's name, and you can move down to the next kid to start the process with the next kid. So I'm just going to discard the changes from that one. You'd want to save changes though. Save your changes before you moved on to the next one. So here I'd go on to the next kid. I see a not yet right here. I would want to fix that. This would be one that I want to fix. I would click right there. I would go to codes. I would click NE exempt, and then I would come over here and I would click NE. Excuse me. I want to go to engaged. My apologies. So I want to click engaged, exempt, and then over here I want to exempt that. So when I have engaged, I want to give them credit for engaging in the standard there. So it's engaged, not an NE. My apologies for that. So approaching mastery, I would want to fix this one. I'd want to fix this one. I'd put an E and an E there, an E and an E there. This is good all the way through. I'd want to fix this one. I'd want to go E as well. I do want to get rid of these though, so I'm going to get rid of all of that. And that is back. And again, to switch to the next kid, I just click right here, and I go work my way down the list and checking all the kids to make sure I have all of those approaching masteries not yet transferred over the way they were supposed to be. And then once you have all of that, you'd want to ensure that you have your comments in place. And then you're going to do a lot of the same things. You're going to want to submit your grades just like previous.